Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Hatha all levels, or excuse me, for everybody. Jennifer Eubank, delighted to be here. Partly sunny day, which is cloudier than partly cloudy. Okay, and right on cue, Geraldine. And we can start in a seated position, or you can go ahead and lie back if you want. Do what you want. We need a strap, we need blocks and a blanket. We're going to lie back in a few moments, but feel free to center yourselves while you're sitting, or you can do it while you're lying down. You have options, and we'll take just a few moments, maybe a couple of cleansing breaths. And maybe close your eyes, soften your gaze. Good morning, Susan. Thank you for joining us.
Hi. Sorry, I had computer difficulties.
You're fine. We're just centering for a few moments, taking it all in. What's it like to be in our space today? The ambiance of the space changes from day to day. The lighting, the smells, the temperature. It's good to know where you are before you start any challenge. When you're ready, delve your thoughts inward and begin to scan through your body, noticing areas of tension, softness, strength, or weakness. Take note. Noticing your breath at some point, a big part of your overall feeling in the body. It can also help regulate how the body feels, as we know, certainly by now. We can regulate our feelings. Couple more breaths. And if you're sitting down, when you're ready, you can go ahead and glide your eyes open. If you're lying down, stay lying down, because we'll all lie back. You could have a blanket under your head and neck, as long as your head and neck are neutral. And as you lie back, I suggest that you start with bent knees so you don't strain your low back as you lie back. And take a couple of breaths, kind of wriggling in, and those knees bent, maybe a little bit of windshield wiper action. And then whenever you're ready, extend the legs out. Legs extended on the floor. We're making our way into a starfish pose. But as you know, I'm not one to rush these shapes, even the simple ones. Try to tune to what's going on in the bottom half of your body first. Get those legs and the knees and feet wide, good, strong foundation. and add your arms as you're ready. And do your best to have the arms to begin with shoulder height, maybe even slightly lower, so as not to strain the shoulders. And pay attention to your hands and your elbows. Sometimes I see folks with their hands, quote unquote, shoulder height, and their hands are way higher than the shoulders. We want extended arms, nice and long, a nice long line, almost as if your arms are one arm, joined together by our collarbones, which is really one long bone, collarbone. Nice long line there. And you decide if you want the hands facing the ceiling or the floor. You have plenty of time to play with that different action in your shoulder joints, which will change the sensation of your starfish. And speaking of which, you can make your legs pretty active by putting some attention to the feet, pointing the toes towards the ceiling, or you can keep the legs a little casual and just let the feet land where they land. And again, you have time to play with those options. But I think in keeping with our Niyama today, Ishvara Pranidhana, which means surrender, which means faith, surrender faith. And that's why I picked this pose, because there's a certain level of vulnerability to it. Kind of have to surrender to the moment. Not much to do here other than play around with the different variations. But you're safe, you're sound. And if you want to let go of tension in the legs and the arms and just let the feet and the arms land the way they land, that's great. And we'll stay here for about maybe 3 more minutes. It's a simple pose, but very profound in its effects. Opening up the pelvic and shoulder girdles, the back, upper and lower. Helps settle and align that spine and lengthen that spine. And we'll apply some breath work to it when you're ready. And because our focus today is on surrendering, letting go, I'd like to add letting go breath to it. I call it letting go breath, extended exhales. So when you're ready, focus on your breathing, the inhales, the exhales. Do so with your nose. And when you're ready, start to regulate the pace by drawing the exhales out to be much, much longer than your inhales. As always, you can count the beats or you can have faith and know that if you attune to extending the exhales, there's no need to count. There's applying some Ishvara Pranidhana to our breath a little bit further. So Ishvara means Lord of creation, and Pranidhana means surrender. And this surrender is a surrender to the idea that we're all created by the same force, and that there is a divine presence within us all. And And Ishvara Pranidhana allows us to recognize this divine order and attitude and compels us to embrace life as a gift, a blessing, even when times are challenging, even when times are difficult. If we can let go of anxieties and tensions and negative emotions and surrender to the moment, know that ultimately greater forces will take care of us. We're safe, we're sound. Things don't always have to go our way. Just because they don't go our way doesn't mean we're in danger, right? We're still okay. And this idea of surrender, it's not an opportunity to give up. Rather, it's an opportunity to accept an outcome, no matter what we have expected of that event or that challenge. Que sera, sera. Whatever will be, will be. And as we let go in this extended exhale breath, so if you've deviated from that, let's take about 5 more of these nice extended exhale, letting go breaths. And as we extend the exhales, can you feel the tension melting away in your shoulders, your chest, your upper back, your neck, even your face, your thoughts, your ideas? Maybe feel the tension melting away from the low back, the hips, the pelvis, your spine. Always say yes to the present moment. Surrender to what it is. Say yes to life and see how life suddenly starts working for you rather than against you. It's a quote from Eckhart Tolle. And we'll start to come back to our regular breathing as you're ready. Natural breath returns. Take a couple of breaths. Notice the effects of your starfish pose. Maybe start to kind of wriggle your body and then bring your arms a little closer in, your feet a little closer in, eventually bending your knees, feet on the floor. And if you need to adjust your head and neck, remember we want to keep a nice neutral head and neck. So you could keep the blanket if you want for windshield wipers. And our version of windshield wipers, let's do those clamshell wipers that we've been doing. So you need to bring the feet and knees wide enough to allow you to keep the feet on the floor and reach the left knee down towards the right ankle. And you have to move the right knee out of the way to do that. So you're reaching that knee down for that ankle. And then you come back to the center and then do the same to the other side. Right knee reaching towards the left ankle and foot. Nice rooted feet, nice rooted arms. Keep your head still for the first few rounds because this is a little bit more of a challenge than our regular wipers. We've got a destination. We're working towards that ankle. Feel that nice stretch in the whole side of the body, the hip, the thigh, the torso. And then as you're ready, bring the head into it and maybe start in the same direction as always. They'll eventually go into a more twisting action. And you can do that as soon as you like. This version, I feel like it's more conducive to going right to that opposite head action. And there's a lot more width, a lot more space in our body in this clamshell wiper version. As we create more space in the body, we unclutter the space. Our body has more freedom to articulate. The less cluttered your body, the less tense it will get. Let's go a few more rounds. Twisting an excellent way, excuse me, to allow you to let go of tensions in the upper and lower body. We've talked about that many times. And try to remember which side you started on and end on the opposite side. And come back to the center and stay there for a couple of breaths. Although go ahead and if you want, you can bring your feet a little closer in and your arms a little closer in. Find a nice two-legged table, 2 breaths there. And then when you're ready, draw your belly in. Let's visit Apanasana. Another pose that's really conducive to letting go, digestion, elimination. This pose can really help us work out tensions in our gut, making space for nutrition to enter and absorb and leave the body in a timely fashion. Sometimes things get stuck in our gut. Healthy digestion can help us let go of tension. We do some circular motion and some rocking, what feels right. If you do circular motion, make sure you go both directions. And we'll come back to a still Apanasana for a few moments. And then bring your feet back down. And before we rise back up, let's do a twist. We'll do a static twist and feel free to put some blocks into it. You might want some support. And you decide which side you want to start with. Arms wherever they want to be, knees to one side, and you can always start from an Apanasana, or you may start with the feet on the floor. Whatever works for you. Let the knees go down and let them land on something so that you're not holding on to tension. Let them go. So if they're hanging in the air, put a block or a blanket under them so you can fully let go And then it's time to look over the opposite shoulder. And let's take 5 breaths here. And let's extend our exhales to be longer than those inhales. The pose allows us to let go of tension. The breath does as well. And they compound one another, allowing us to surrender to the moment, to truly experience the present moment. We're not fighting it. We're not trying to go somewhere else in our minds. Let's go a little longer. Come back to natural breath as you're ready. And then come back to the center bit by bit and stay in the middle for a couple of breaths. Notice the two sides of your body. They probably feel a little different. And then we'll do the other side. So set it up, take your time, build your stable twist, give yourself an opportunity to truly surrender and let go of any tensions in your body. And complement it then with that letting go breath. We'll go one more. And come back to natural breath as you're ready. Come back to the center as you're ready. Couple of breaths. And then let's come up to a seated position. And take your time. Feel free to sit on a blanket. You could have the knees bent. You could have the legs extended. Whatever feels right for you. And speaking of which, I'm going to have to do this real quick and get my hair up so it's not all flying in my face. Okay, so let's start with some painting the rainbows. The last few weeks, I've been playing more with crescent moons and keeping our crescents still. This week, let's add some movement, going back to our familiar rainbows, setting the movement up, easing into the movements, taking your time to create that strong foundation to allow you to let go of tensions as you go from side to side. So the first might feel a little stiff, but as you ease into the movement, they might start to feel a little less and less stiff, those curves. Pairing the movement with breath. Nice opportunity not only to curve that spine from side to side, but you get a nice back stretch, especially in the lower back, I feel. I think because the rooting of the sits bones and the hand that comes down on the floor gives you a chance to really stretch out that lower back. Of course, your upper back and your shoulders get it too. Let's go a couple more. Coming back to center as you're ready. Notice the effects of your rainbows. Let's do some circles, some hip circles. We'll do a few of these before we move on. Start whatever direction feels right. Remember to have your hands on the legs so that you're good and grounded. Keep the belly drawn in to protect your back. Going round and round. Easing through tensions in the hip joints, the low back. These are also really good for digestion because as you go round and round, you're getting some belly pressure as the belly and the sides of the torso press up against the thighs there. Let's find a pause point and switch directions. And as you switch directions, you might need to change something about the feet under the legs. I'm constantly pressing my legs into the feet into the ground. Let's go a few more rounds. And start to make your circles a little smaller and smaller. Corkscrewing back to the center and taking a couple of breaths. Notice how you feel. Feel that swirling action kind of subsiding, fading away. Okay, next, let's do some rolling cobras. We've been doing those a lot lately. Actually, we'll start with some rocking horses and then turn rocking horses into rolling cobras. That sounds like a little bit of a safer bet. So when you're ready in your table pose, and in fact, let's do a few cats and cows in our table pose, and that'll get our spine ready to be in that more cobra-like shape, curving the spine towards the back and towards the front of the body. Keeping the hands and the knees and the feet good and grounded, allowing that flexibility in your spine. Pressing into the earth to find that ability to let go of tensions that might be holding that spine from going to a nice full curve. This is how we can apply this idea, Ishvara Pranidhana, to our life. Being good and grounded allows us to let go of preconceived needs or ideas because we feel safe and sound and we can be a little bit more flexible and go with the flow. So speaking of flow, let's bring some flow into it. Let's start with some rocking horses, which are kneeling planks and child's poses. Inhaling as you come forward, exhaling as you go back. And feel free as we go back and forth in our rocking horses and eventually turning these into our rolling cobras. You could play around with every now and then extending your exhale to be longer than your inhale. And that would coincide with spending a little bit more time in your child's pose, a little bit more time in your rest. So feel free to apply that letting go breath at any time during our rocking horses and even our rolling cobras. And if you recall a rolling cobra, we go into that plank, but we go a little bit further and bring the thighs towards the floor and land in a really high cobra. We don't go into all the way down to the floor. It's almost like a upward dog. It's more like a grounded upward dog. An up dog. You could even lift the knees up if you wanted to a couple times. And remember, you can extend your exhales. You could spend a little extra time. You could even take a couple of extra breaths in your child's pose if you want to break from that movement. You could return to planks if you prefer planks over the rolling cobra. You could always return to your rolling cobras as well after a few rocking horses. Let's do a few more of these. And by these, I mean either horses or cobras. And in the next couple of breaths, let's take a break. At some point, staying in that child's pose. And once you are there, you could, because we'll stay here for some time if you want some support for your child, or if you want to change that version, you could do that. And then we'll spend 3 breaths here, and we'll extend each exhale of each of those 3 breaths. And just notice what happens. If you're like me, it compels you to extend your stay here. Maybe take 4 or 5 of those extended exhale breaths. You can feel that spine lengthening. You can feel the hips and the low back releasing, the shoulders releasing. What can happen during those extended exhales? And whenever you're ready, please take your time. You can come back up to your table, and then we'll spend the next 3 or 4 minutes playing with some down dogs. Easing into your dogs, rooting and grounding, lengthening. You can wag your tail, you can lift the heels, you've got all these options. Play around, see if you can change up your dog today. If your dog is always the same, Ishvara Pranidhana, applying it to our practice, it can give you an opportunity to change it up and do something totally different. It doesn't always have to be the same dog, doesn't always have to be the same experience. And notice if, broadening your horizons allows you to discover something new. Surrender to the idea of doing something different, knowing that you've got the basics to keep you safe and sound. And if you go somewhere that feels unsafe, you can return to that place of security and stability. You can ease into these challenges and these differences. And speaking of which, anytime you need to take a rest, feel free to take a rest in your table, your child's, your breath, all of the above. Let's go about 10 more breaths. 10 more breaths playing with your dogs. Looking good. Dogs are a great way to let go, to surrender, but also to build. And when you're ready, let's think about making our way up to a standing position. So take your time. And because forward folds will be the focus of our practice, let's see if we can turn a downward dog into a forward fold. You could always put your blocks into it, or you don't have to if you don't want to. Turn your dog into a fold by walking the hands and feet towards each other and spending some time here. Put the hands somewhere on the floor, the blocks, your legs, or maybe the opposite elbows. So you're sealing the rooting of the legs. And that can allow you to let go of tension in your back. Rather than just let the arms hang, let the hands be somewhere. So you can let go of that tension in your spine. And at some point, let's turn our half forward fold. Our full forward fold to a half forward fold. And you could have the hands on blocks, or if the blocks aren't right there, you could simply put your hands on the legs below your knees and straighten your arms. So you've got some nice support there for your torso. And look straight down. So you've got a nice long spine. And we'll take about 5 more breaths in our half forward fold. You could have a little bend to the knees. Maybe wag your tail a little bit. It's a nice way to stretch those hamstrings. And this is a nice way to practice hinging at the hips. We're already halfway up. So we're going to use the legs and the strong glutes, not that low back, to lift us up. Draw the belly in. The back will participate, but the legs, the glutes, and the core muscles all work together to alleviate that back as we lift up. Let's take a few moments. Look around, start to pick up the feet, different parts of the feet. And like I said, Today we'll focus on lots of folds, different kinds of forward folds. So have your blocks nearby. And to begin with, let's start with some mini suns. We've done those many times. And you don't really need to step back. You can just be in one spot. Start with that good mountain. Shoulders, hips, knees, and ankles lined up as best as you can. Root the feet evenly and draw that energy up the legs, through the glutes, up into the torso, all the way out through the crown of your head. Let's take 3 more breaths in our mountain pose. And let's extend the exhales of each of those breaths. What does that extended exhale do to the stillness of your mountain? I'll give you another moment or two to finish with that exploration. And then we'll move on to our mini suns. And once again, a good strong foundation. Draw the belly in. And when you're ready, inhale the arms up. Exhale, swan dive, hinge at the hips. Come all the way down. Then lift halfway. You can be tracing your legs as you do this. Come all the way down. Inhale, come all the way up. Reversing your swan dive. Knees can be bent. And we'll start all over. Inhale, extend. Exhale, swan dive forward. These mini suns, a great way to teach you to reinforce the idea of hinging at the hips so that you're not creating tension in your back with these moves. You're letting go of tension in the back. Notice how things are evolving, how things are progressing. Are things getting a little bit easier? Are you going deeper? I'm going to do 2 more rounds. So this one will be it's regular pace. We're all at different paces, different places. So you can finish out that 1 round. And then the second round, the last round, will extend the exhale. So the exhaled movement lasts longer. So the rising doesn't last as long as the lowering. Let's do that 2 times, actually. One more time. And take your time finishing that up and notice, did extending the exhale do something for that mini sun? Of course it did. It made you slow it down and release a little bit more. And what you put into it is what you're going to get out of it. Let's shake it out, stomp it out, march it out. And let's do some more forward folds, and we'll do a variety of forward folds. Let's do another just from our mountain. So again, have the blocks nearby because you might need the blocks. Start with a nice strong mountain. And when you're ready, you use the inhale to extend and the exhale to swan dive into your forward fold. Take your time and let's stay here for a few breaths. And again, hands somewhere on the floor, the blocks, your legs, and take a few more breaths, fine tuning your fold and stabilizing it. We want to drop the head as much as we can. If you get dizzy, you could come up to that half forward fold. Otherwise, we'll stay here for 2 or 3 more breaths and see if you can extend your exhales of each of those breaths and see if that allows you to go deeper into your forward fold. Maybe you feel more of a lengthening of your spine with that lengthened exhale. Notice. And that might perhaps create a little bit more space in your body, a little more, less cluttered. And take your time with that. And you can come back to normal breath as you're ready and come up when you're ready. And once again, strong legs and glutes working together with your torso to hinge back up, back into our mountain. Take your time getting there. And take a couple of quiet breaths in your mountain, just regular breaths, feeling your body after that forward fold. We were there for some time. So now let's do it with wide feet. So if you need to turn your mat or turn your device, go for it. Again, blocks nearby in case you need them, maybe one, maybe both. Feet are rooted, good strong legs, glutes and torso working together. Let's stay 3 breaths in our wide-footed mountain, and let's extend our exhales to be longer than our inhales, like we did earlier. See if that affects your wide-footed mountain. I like it. All right, let's do a forward fold from our wide feet. So again, strong legs, strong torso, working in tandem, using the inhale to lengthen and using the exhale to press into the floor with the feet, strengthen the legs, hinge the hips, maybe trace the legs as you come down. And once you're there, if you need to rearrange your feet, your hands, your setup, go for it. Maybe you need to turn your feet out a little bit or maybe a little bit more in, closer in, what works for you. And then again, if you get dizzy, you have that option of coming up to that halfway point. Otherwise, let's stay here for a few breaths and we'll stabilize things and then see if we can take 3 of those extended exhale breaths here. If it gets to be too much, you can back off of that extended exhale breath or you could come up to your half forward fold. Otherwise, we'll continue. Come back to natural breath as you're ready. And then let's come back up. So make sure the feet are rooted. You might need to bring them a little bit closer in. That's fine. You could put the hands on the hips, or you could do a reverse swan dive. As long as your back is not curving as you lift up, you've got a nice, spacious torso to hinge up. And once you're back up, stay in that wide-footed position for a couple of breaths. Resist any urge to flutter and move. Just let it go and be with the moment. And then let's heel toe or hop, step back to the center, whatever works for you. And then maybe a little bit of movement, loosey-goosey. Maybe you want to do something with your arms. What does your body need at this point? Honor it. I'll check our time. Oh, it always makes me bump out of the app to check the time. Okay, we've got just enough time to do our next forward fold. We'll do one more standing forward fold. We'll actually do two, and you'll see why. And then we'll come down and do some forward folds in our seated position. So I'm going to turn so you can see the side of the body. And we want to be facing the short side of our mat anyway. And we come to the top of the mat. We're basically doing pyramids, Parsvakonasana. We haven't done these a lot lately. We start with in a mountain with the blocks in front of us because we might need those. And then when you're ready, from your mountain pose, step your right foot back and make sure both feet are facing forward. We want them both to be facing forward, both nice and rooted. I like to have my legs kind of close in, but I want to make sure my hips are even. So if one hip is back and one hip is forward, fix that. Root the feet. And then what we'll do is we'll go into a forward fold from this position. So hands on the hips, or maybe behind the hips. Draw the belly in, root the feet, strengthen the legs. Squeeze your way down. Try to keep your spine lengthened. And once you're down to that halfway point, you can bring your hands to the blocks. And you want to make sure the blocks are on either side of your foot. So if they're in front of your foot, put them on either side of your foot. And once again, you want that back hip kind of coming forward and your front hip kind of pointing back. So that can even up your hips in your half forward fold. And if you can, go all the way down into a full forward fold. Hands can be on the blocks, or you could have them behind your hips. And we'll do a couple more breaths. And when you're ready to come back up, make sure both feet are rooted, both legs are strong. Come up to that halfway point, and then come all the way up. Press the feet into the floor, strengthen the legs to come up. That should take care of any wobbly. And step forward and take a couple of breaths. Blocks are on either side of the feet, setting us up for the next side. Stepping the left foot back. Blocks are right there. Back hip is forward, front hip is back, so hips are even. I like to put my hands behind my back because that helps me to put more space into my chest and my back. And I'm careful not to curve down. I have a nice flat back. And then my hands come down and naturally find that block or those blocks. And I stay there for a couple of breaths with that support. And then come down. Maybe your journey is a little different. I like that step-by-step motion. And when you're ready, again, root the feet, strengthen the legs, especially that back leg. And your knees could be slightly bent. Come back up to that halfway point And then come all the way up, pressing the feet, strong legs lift you. And stay there for a breath or two. Recover from that lift. Then step forward. So you're not rushing things, and you're building not only your strength, but also your confidence and patience, not to mention your listening skills. Let's do it one more time, and let's see if we can add that extended exhale breath here. And since we haven't done this in a while, if that's too much, don't worry, you don't have to do that. So when you're ready, from your mountain, blocks on either side of your feet, we'll step the right foot back and get those feet good and rooted, good strong legs to begin with, not to mention your hips. Maybe the hands on the hips, maybe behind. And as you fold forward, think about reaching your heart, your spine towards past that mat so you're not curving. And you can bring the hands to the blocks, or maybe you want to keep them on the hips as you come all the way down. I need the blocks. And when you're in that forward fold, once you're there, if it's there for you, see if you might do one or two of those extended exhale breaths. Take your time with that. Remember, knees can be a little soft. Start to lift halfway up and come up when you're ready, bit by bit. And once you're up, come forward. Couple of breaths there. Maybe a little bit of movement. And we'll do the other side. And this will be our last standing forward fold. Good, strong foundation. Take care of that first. So you've got a good, stable ground from which to explore, evolve, grow, deepen. Remember that breath technique, maybe apply it here. Come back to regular breath when you're ready. I like to come up to that halfway point using the blocks. Then I put my hands on my hips and I feel more confident. And you could always have the hands on the back for the whole time. What works for you? Once you're up, try to have the foot back for a breath or two before you step it forward. A couple of quiet breaths here. And then undoubtedly, you probably want to shake it out a little bit. And let's do this. Let's do two more things before we come back down. First of all, let's find a good mountain pose. And once you've got a good mountain pose, take 3 extended exhale breaths in it. Coming back to regular breath as you're ready. And let's do one more mini sun with extending our exhales. And then we'll come down. So take your time if you need a little bit of movement, setting up for that mountain base. And when you're ready, going into one more mini sun with those extended exhales. What did it do for your movement? What is it doing for your movement? How does that play a role? It can enrich the movement you're in right now, but it can also inform other movements that you do in the future. Maybe help you to slow down movements so that you notice more and build from a stronger foundation that's more well informed. Let's kind of shake it out, tap it out. Let's make our way down to the floor and let's meet in a caterpillar pose with legs extended. We want to be sitting maybe on a blanket. We want our blocks, maybe another blanket and a strap. So, caterpillar or Dandasana, it's also called, legs extended, hips hinged. We've got our strap, maybe a little bend in the knees, maybe something under the knees like those blocks. However, you might want to put one of those blocks up near your thighs and belly. That can give you some support in your forward fold. You decide how much support you'll need in a forward fold action. And get everything situated. Good relationship to the pose, to the strap. Put a little bit of effort to it, but also soften its edges so it's not a rigid pose. There's a sense of fluidity and a sense of evolving and letting go in that pose. Let's go one more breath and let's extend the exhale. See what that does. Made me feel a little bit more grounded, more stable, more sound in my connection to the earth, as well as to my own sense of courage. So now we'll do a forward fold, and once we're there, we'll apply some of that extended breath. So as you're ready, good strong foundation, use the inhale to help you lift the heart and lengthen the spine, and use the exhale to help you hinge at the hips, press into the floor, pull onto the strap, take your time. The breath will start to evolve. As you make your way bit by bit, you can pause every now and then. I suggest a pause every now and then because that can help you adjust to different ranges of your motion abilities. You might be able to go a little further. Take your time. And I will tell you now, as whenever you get to go as far as you want to go, you can drop the head. And if it's there for you, do one or two, maybe even three of those extended exhale breaths. If it's there for you, take your time. When you are ready to come back, take your time, come back to natural breath, and make sure the legs, the glutes are good and engaged. You're using your leverage. You're hinging back up. You're not rolling back up. You're folding, unfolding. Hinged forward, hinged back. Once you're back, take a couple of breaths, feeling what it's like to be back. Stabilize it, and then take one more extended exhale breath once you're ready for that. Upright. And you can come back to natural breath when you're ready, feeling the effects and contemplate your whole practice. We did a lot of extended exhales in different parts of the practice. What effect did it have? Well, we've done this before, but it's good to reiterate and repeat these things. And for our last pose, I thought we would do a supported fish, another really nice reclining surrender pose. So let's go low key. Let's not use the blocks. I don't want to do a blocked version. Let's do a smaller of a back bend. So you could get a pillow or a nice long blanket. And it cuts across your mat. And remember, it will be there for your ribs and your middle back. Not part of your upper back, but ultimately your shoulders and your arms are behind the blanket because that gives that lift in your heart. And once again, we want to make sure that the arms are level with the shoulders. So if your arms are higher, that's going to strain your shoulders. We want to bring them shoulder height so we can release tension in the shoulders. And as you settle into your position, make sure the blanket is uniform and neat and supportive, and opening up your chest and your heart. You got a slight back bend. Hands can be open or down. Facing the ceiling will give you a little bit more of a sense of vulnerability and a sense of letting go. Let's do that since that's our focus. Hands facing the ceiling. There's a nice external rotation to your shoulder joints, which opens up your shoulder girdle, the sides of your chest. It can even help open up your ribs a little bit. Feet can just kind of dangle. Just let the feet land however they land. And they can be right next to each other. They can be slightly apart. You can even go into that starfish-like position that we did earlier. Ooh, I like it. And as you settle into whatever version you want, settle in on your breath. And let's take 5 extended exhales. then come back to regular breath as you're ready. Take your time. You might need a couple more breaths for those extended exhales. And once you are ready to come back to that natural breath, take just a couple of natural breaths and then quiet that breath and quiet your body. See if you might release any tensions you might still be holding on to. Let it go, releasing into the weight and the shape of your body, releasing into the blanket, the earth, letting go quietly. And then as you're ready, slowly begin to deepen your inhales and your exhales. And start to wriggle your fingers and toes, your hands and your feet. Take your time. We Shavasana in our supported starfish. Take your time, bit by bit, coming back to a two-legged table, rolling to one side and staying there for a couple of breaths. And bit by bit, coming up slowly, returning to whatever seated position feels right. Our mudra today is the chin mudra, which we've done before, the gesture of consciousness. Tips of the thumb and the index finger touch. The other three fingers are extended, but they're also touching, middle, ring, and pinky finger. And there's kind of an arc to them. And we put that down either, let's put them on our knees. And take a few breaths, face down, feeling the sensations that holding this mudra creates for you. Allowing you to ease bodily tensions and settle into your breath and enjoy the present moment and the divine gift that it brings you. Peace and harmony. Let's go one more breath. Maybe extend your exhale. And you can release it. Hands in front of your hearts. May you be safe, happy, and free from suffering. Namaste. Thank you so much for your practice. I will stop the recording